tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome in to RBLR Rowdies here at RBLR Sports. My name is Eureka Wheeler, and my voice might be, a little unfamiliar, but filling in for our normal team of Carlos and James, who are both traveling, so I'm sure they'll have fun stories when they return. But I am here sitting in the chair, and sitting across from me in my digital table here is a special guest. He is a writer and podcaster for D-Rays Bay, and we've been thankful enough to have him as a guest on our Rays show. But he does write about the green and gold from time to time, and here to talk about the Rowdies, welcome Brett Rutherford. What's up, man?
Oh, so happy to be here, man. I only agreed to come on because Carlos wasn't going to be here. No, I'm kidding. I love Carlos. I've been going to games with him for almost 6 years now. And so, yeah, really happy to be here. I don't get a chance to talk Rowdies much. I try to sneak it into D-Rays Bay whenever I can. But yeah, excited to talk about the green and gold.
Well, and what a great week to have you on, because our Rowdies are in the thick of a wonderful unbeaten streak, and they won 2-0 this week. The Rowdies were able to thwart a very frantic Memphis attack with a wonderful team effort, and they fired back with their own. With LaCava was put 2 in the net, and Fernandez was creating for him. It was just however you want to slice it, this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about this particular game. Before we get into it, want to say thank you for listening, and go ahead and, if you're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, find us. We are at RBLR Sports, and of course, like and subscribe to this podcast on any major platform. Before we get in the nuts and bolts, Brett, what do you think was your overall takeaway after a really, really good Memphis 901 win here?
First off, getting the win over Memphis, that's a team towards the top of the table, and the Rowdies are back up there too. I know there was a good chunk of this season where we kind of thought, will they kind of fall back into mid-table, barely sneak into the playoffs form? But they've been great lately. The biggest takeaway, Jake LaCava. I mean, 2 goals. He's been, I would say, the Rowdies' best player this season, which is great. But at the same time, it's going to be short-lived. He's going to end up back with Red Bulls. He's going to be playing MLS at some point in his career, probably sooner rather than later. That's one of the knocks of being a second division team. I love playing in USL. I love being a fan of a USL team. But LaCava has been an absolute joy, and so I'm just trying to spend the rest of the season, not taking for granted his ability.
100%. We have to enjoy Jake for the time that he is here, so that when he does, we've been joking throughout the weeks here that he's almost doing too well, that he's probably going to get called up sooner than later. Almost maybe this season he gets stolen from us. I don't know how likely that is, but it is definitely something to joke about, and it's kind of a kernel of truth inside there. But complete I wouldn't say demolishing, but the second half was pretty academic, and all the action was really in the first half. So I kind of wanted to maybe dive deeper into that first half here. The same formation and the same 11 as last week's victory against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You had Cochran in the net and 4 in the back. That's probably the biggest change that we've seen in the last couple weeks. Guillen, Antley, Scarlett, and Wyke are your back 4, with Ekra, Hilton, and Dalgard in the mid, with Greig, Fernandez, and LaCava up top. And then, of course, how that works in real life, though, is that Antley does push forward on offense, and Dalgard does work really well pushing forward as a winger, as we'll get into. The first 15 minutes, both teams came out attack-minded, but gave up some very close balls that could be attacks. So neither teams, I wouldn't say they were feeling each other out, but they were definitely trying to get on the scoreboard very quickly. And Brett LaCava was able to get it done. The 3rd minute, assisted by Kyle Greig. He uses that pressure by Memphis to get the ball up the right side, kind of as a counterattack. But it's a very good attack, and gets it off the rebound right to Jake LaCava, who puts it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think this goal, it kind of highlights the route, and this is early on,
Yeah.
But this is not a constant pressing team, the Rowdies. But they pick their moments. They know when to press. They know when to push forward. LaCava really seems to have a knack to find those spaces, put himself in the right place at the right time. And I think a lot of times when that happens, it's luck. But with LaCava, it feels like he knows when to make those runs. And what was honestly more impressive than the goal itself was Kyle Greig's hold-up play to win that ball with other Memphis defenders around him. And I don't think it was world-class defending by any means from Memphis, but Greig's ability to go down there, win that ball, ultimately put a shot that was deflected and fell to LaCava, and he finished it. He won't get it. I don't think he got an official assist, but it was every bit of an assist in the game to where that goal doesn't happen if Greig doesn't put in that work, which is interesting because you think of a hold-up striker in this team, you're thinking of Steven Dos Santos. You're not really thinking of Kyle Greig as that sort of player, but he's been that. He's been versatile. I've been really impressed with him because this is not a young team by any stretch anymore. We got a lot of guys in their 30s, including Kyle Greig, that have been around the block. So to see him kind of put that dirty work in, he scored some goals this season as well. He has been, I think, a huge signing, and he didn't score the goal, but when I watched that highlight back, it's like he caused every bit of that goal.
Yeah, Greig's been, I think he was a little slow in the beginning, and to be honest with you, if Greig just has a couple millimeters to the left or to the right on a lot of his attacks this year, he'd be lighting up the stat sheet, and I think we would maybe think of him a lot higher in the attacking scheme of this team. But for now, he's I wouldn't say, well, I would say he's getting it done. He's unfortunately not on the stat sheet, but he's picking up assists. He's definitely fighting for balls, and he adds an element that has unlocked, as well as moving Leo Fernandez into the mid away from the wing. It's been a revelation, really, and I think that Greig doesn't get a lot of the notoriety that I think he should for this. I completely agree with you in terms of, without his hustle, that this doesn't work. I mean, getting the ball and moving it up, and we're all happy because it was away from the mob, but we were all watching it, and they just as soon as Leo had it, or LaCava had it, it was a no doubter. It was in the back of the net, and we're all. Some of us not even getting done with our first sips of beer or $5 Bud Lights, and the smoke is, you could still smell the sulfur from the first smoke in the air. So I could tell you, I was talking with a couple people. We're up in the press box, and I'm like, eventually there were 6,100 people, but just not everyone shows up right at kickoff, and it's kind of funny. It's like maybe only 4,000 people saw that goal because it 3 minutes in. But a little later on, it didn't take much longer to see the second goal. Everyone was in their seats. All 6,100 were in their seats around the 19th minute. The midfield became a battle zone after that first goal. And thankfully, again, from the sides is where all the attacking was happening because of just this minefield that was in the middle of the pitch. But Leo Fernandez ends up attacking from the right side and breaks free, slides it right over to LaCava, who buries it between a defender and the keeper. I think it hit the keeper's arm, bounced off, and then goes in the net. So it was a little. We didn't know how it looked from the far side of the field, but as soon as he starts running over to the side to high five his family who were in attendance, we were all on board that it was the second goal of the game. What did you see out of the second goal?
Again, my biggest takeaway was not the goal scorer, but the assister was Leo Fernandez. I thought last season I was a little critical of the way they used Fernandez. I think he's the most skilled player on this team, and he's a great wing back, and he's got a lot of pace, and he's got great positioning, and he's a great crosser of the ball. So I understand why Neil would want to have him in that wing back role. But I want my most skilled player who has a knack for scoring and assisting. I want them to be on the ball in attacking situations. And it felt like for chunks of last season, Leo Fernandez would kind of just get stranded out there on the wing, especially in big playoff games, especially I thought in the final last year. So to see him in a different role this season. I mean, he's already scored 7 goals. He's got 4 assists, including this one from this past weekend. That has been a revelation, I think, for Neil Collins to put him back in more of an attacking role. So I'm really happy to see him doing that and providing more of an offensive output. But again, to see LaCava get his 9th, he's now got a 2-goal lead for top scorer with the Rowdies this year. Put himself in the right place, struck the ball, put it in the back of the net. That's the name of the game, especially for a player like LaCava.
So at this point now, if Memphis wasn't already, desperate for a goal, they're now down 2 on the road, and we're not even at the 20th minute. So unfortunately, the Rowdies did not let up. If you're a Memphis 901 fan, this was not a good game to watch because we're pressing in, we're creating more chances, and that inevitably leads to a penalty kick, which Leo Fernandez, who is our normal penalty kick taker, of course, gets the chance at this spot. He guesses right. He beats the keeper, but he misses it just to the left. It dings the post, bounces off. But we had a chance to be up 3 goals 30 minutes into this match. Any thoughts on Fernandez missing that kick and the keeper kind of celebrating like he had done something after totally guessing wrong? So credit to the goalpost, but we were kind of in the bag and it was already 30 minutes in. Unfortunately, Leo misses the penalty here.
It happens. It would have been nice to have been up 3-0, right, in the first half at home, comfortably cruise through the second half. But I think, kind of like you said, the game was, at that point, really done and dusted. It was going to take a Herculean effort from Memphis to get back in it. And then, that fell apart. Any chance they had fell apart in the second half with that red card. You'd like to see him score. I don't know who the best penalty taker at this club is. I don't even know if Neil Collins knows at this point. But, it happens when you got the 2-0 lead that you carry through the full 90 minutes. It's easy to forget that even happened.
Well, again, from that point on, this will be very truncated here. Memphis was a pest with their deep ball attack, but it was thwarted every single time. Memphis really did have a couple just close calls that, if, Antley or someone didn't make a really good, sprinting play at the back line, it could have been a little can of worms, but unfortunately never got opened. Ekra had a really good scoring chance at the 37th minute. Fernandez hits a corner that really can't be contained by the keeper. Jan is perfectly in position for a beautiful header, but a defender on the line has a header of his own to clear, so that saves it. Like you had mentioned, Brett, Memphis went down to 10 men around the 60th minute in the game, and it was already sort of academic at that point. And if there was even a hope and a chance, because 2-0 is the most dangerous lead in soccer, but there was really nothing to note. It's 77th minute. Dalgard gets an amazing chance, great run up, great strike, beat the keeper, hits the bar. What are you going to do? So it could have been 4-0. It maybe could have been 5-0, but that more accurately reflects what the 2-0 doesn't reflect how much of a drubbing this was by the Rowdies. Which leads me to a few questions that I want to ask you. So Brett, we did question if we were going to have the formation change, and they did keep the formation change, including the exact same 11. What do you think having 4 at the back, which is different for this club? Even Neil said in the press conference that 99% of the time he's got 3 in the back, but it's working. 4 in the back. What are you seeing the Rowdies getting out of this?
I mean, it's definitely working, right? And you went into this season, if Castellanos hadn't hurt his ankle in the first 20 minutes of the first game, I don't know if he ever experiments with this 4 at the back formation. But he's got a lot of versatile players. Obviously, Gian, Scarlett, what you're going to get from those guys. And he's got a couple other defenders that he can kind of, mix and match with, step in for a game. You're not necessarily comfortable with them starting and playing for 90 minutes every weekend. But then you look at guys like Lawrence Wyke and Connor Antley and Sebastian Dahlgaard. You can kind of mess with their roles, put him at wing back, turn him as more of a traditional fullback. Wyke has stepped in at center back before. And I think the versatility of everyone in the Rowdies midfield has kind of given Neil this extra layer of flexibility that he's been able to use. I think last year when injuries happened or any other sort of adversity that might have been, there wasn't a lot bad to say about last year's Rowdies team. They were incredible. But when they had to change their plan, they didn't have as much success. And I think this year, trying to stick with the same formation, you saw that rough run of form in the early parts of the season. And maybe this four in the back, formation sticks. I don't think it's Neil's preferred, but it's working right now. You just beat a team like Memphis and did it pretty handily. So you got to rock with it now. But maybe when guys get healthy, or maybe different types of opponents, you can go back to your three at the back formation. That's what I prefer. But it was also really fun to watch when you had Forrest Lasso in the middle of that back three.
Yeah.
And now you've had a lot more changes on that back line, but Gian and Scarlett are there to stay, and I think they're good enough, with someone filling in to hold down a back three.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. Neil appreciates players with a diverse skill set, and defense is probably the number one skill that he would love in that.
That's the Rays way, right?
Yeah. If every game was 1-0 to the Rowdies, I think he'd be. If it was a defensive slugfest, I think Neil would be screaming his head off for 90 minutes. But he would love every second of getting the 3 points with a clean sheet and 1 goal. But Antley, of course, I thought was wonderful defending the deep ball as part of that back four. I thought that. Scarlett on the you had mentioned Scarlett. I agree with you 100%. He's always killing it on the back line. But then this game too, I thought a difference maker was Jan Ekra, who we're kind of the Jan Ekra fan club on the Rowdies podcast. James is just a stalwart person who just loves Jan Ekra's play. And in this one, I thought that and even on rewatch, I thought that his energetic defense in the midfield really helped out the four in the back, which they're not really used to doing, but it's kind of like a little bit of something that kind of amplified with Jan Ekra just being able to play energetic defense. Were there I said Jan Ekra, we've already kind of talked about Antley, Scarlett, LaCava. Was there any other difference makers you had in this game?
I think Lewis Hilton again ended up kicking the ball that led to the penalty, but Lewis Hilton and Jan Ekra in midfield. Since I've been a Rowdies fan, 2016 I went to my first game. 2017 was when I was at almost every game. I don't think I've seen a better midfield duo than Ekra and Hilton. Their experience, their confidence, their poise, their ability to impact, like you said, Ekra providing cover for the back four. Hilton's link-up ability, they can both charge forward when needed and create goal-scoring opportunities. And they can do so in sync. You can tell, they look like they've been playing together for 5+ seasons. So those two together, Marcel Schaefer is probably the best midfielder I've ever seen play for the Rowdies. That 2017 season, he was just incredible. But I don't think he had a midfield partner for large. You had Martin Vingard, you had Michael Nanchoff, a couple guys that could do a job, but not a player that was going to step in every single weekend and be incredible or as incredible as Schaefer was. But Hilton and Ekra, the way those two work together, that's my favorite part of this Rowdies team this season.
Well, and another dynamic duo that we've talked about, but I want to give them their flowers as much as we can. LaCava and Fernandez just continue to rule up top. And you talk about tinkering with the back three or the midfield or whatever you need because of injuries, but Neil Collins made a very specific choice to move Fernandez into the mid of the top striking formation, but then also to pair him, and it seemed like it unlocked LaCava and Fernandez both been able to do what their skill sets are intended to be. What have you seen in the difference between, injuries do play part of this, okay? But we don't have Seba and we don't have Dos Santos up there. And because of those two, we've changed to this LaCava, Fernandez, and Greig for the last couple weeks. What have you seen differently from the striking combination versus maybe what we've had earlier in the season?
I know it's listed as like the formation with Fernandez up top, but really with Fernandez, Greig, and LaCava from this past weekend's game, they were all fluid. There was not one guy that was going to stay in the box, as a target man. They were all making runs in and around each other. I'm just kind of looking at some of the heat maps and stuff now. It's a very fluid formation for up top. Obviously, you got your midfield. You got your back four. Dalgard has his own role. But having Greig, Fernandez, and LaCava, again, that chemistry where Fernandez will hold up the ball or he'll dribble past the defender and he knows LaCava's running in from the left, or he knows he's got Greig coming in from the right. Sometimes Fernandez drifts out wide where he can put some, that skill to better use and have Greig waiting for a pass in the middle of the box, or LaCava like he found for the second goal in this game. With strikers and with goal scorers, it always feels like there are good runs and there are bad runs. But when you've got three guys that can not only hold up play, find good passes to make, but can also score goals, like I think Leo, Fernandez, Kyle, Greig, and LaCava can all do. I mean, that is when, as a manager, you just kind of sit back and let them cook.
Well, man, I think the only thing that Jake LaCava wasn't able to do is get a chance to kick the penalty to put a hat trick on the board. I was jokingly asking Neil, like, was there any chance that he takes that penalty, with a brace? Neil laughed it off immediately. He's like, look, I think he even said something like, I didn't even know about the stat of the. I'm like, come on, it's 2 goals. The only 2 goals you scored were the same guy did it. Come on, it wasn't like it was 7-0, whatever. But it's just, this is a great point that they're not really locked in, and I think that's the difference to me. It's kind of a loaded question because my answer to that is, you do have a Dos Santos who's a big target man, and he's got a very good skill at that specific way of attacking the ball. And I think that last season and the beginning of this season, we saw crosses to nowhere. I mean, that was just, okay, you got the ball on the wing, cross. Okay, maybe we get it, maybe we don't. This formation change, or putting LaCava and Fernandez and Greig and able to just kind of like see what the defense is giving us. Where do we attack? Is it the side? Is it the middle? Is it, but they still have the ability to not just cross, but make really good side-to-side passes. And then you have Ekras and Greigs and Dalgards and all this stuff that are able to kind of pick up the rebounds, like in hockey, you stuff the net and then you get the rebound. I think that we have so many diverse skill sets that you basically, that's the spearhead, is an attacking LaCava and Fernandez, and you have so many other options that secondary to that, if the gravity is going towards Leo, you picked your poison. LaCava's putting 2 in the net, and that that's kind of what I saw in this game. But I mean, it's a great point that they're not really pegged into one position or one area. They can pretty much do everything that's needed up top there.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, who was your man of the match then?
I don't know. I mean, I know if, for those of you that also listen to the other Rowdy show that Stephen Cundiff, one of their hosts, just hates giving it to the goal scorer.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to do that. LaCava was great. We know he's going to score goals. But Jan Ekra, like you mentioned, was just all over the place. And he has been such like a mainstay in this team. And it's like last year he didn't get as much consistent time and maybe playing in different roles, but he was just immense in this game in all aspects of the game. So I'm going to go with Jan Ekra.
Okay, I brought him up earlier. You're not going to get a fight out of me, but you stole my man of the match. So second to just in the sake of not copying you here, I'm going to give it to someone that for the same reason, we always pick LaCava, and to be honest with you, we've been picking Leo Fernandez because he's also having just the best run of his entire career. So in the non-LaCava and the non-Leo Fernandez division, I'm going to give it to Lawrence Wyke. I think Wyke has, you put him in the midfield, great. You put him in the back, he's playing like right back, and he's been killing it. He's aggressive, sometimes to a fault, but because of that aggression, he's going to win one-on-one duels. He's going to get in your face if it's in the air. He's going to make a recovery like immediately. If the other team gets the ball, he's going to be in your face getting that ball back. And it's a reason why, Goodrum and the rest of this really pestering, really good Memphis 901 attack was stifled and eventually was a clean sheet. So I think a lot of that goes to Lawrence Wyke as much of a wild card as he is sometimes emotionally on the field. He earned it with hard play and it, turning defense into offense like we talked about earlier. His long ball was very accurate, and it was a reason we were able to get things going and get things started on the counter.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you look at every starter on at least on FOTMob, and I know that's not always the most reliable, but their player ratings, every single starter was at least a 7.0. They're all green, so you could pick that like that first half, and the Rowdies dominated the second half too. But that first half was so just comprehensive that you could pick anyone from the starting 11, and it was one of the best team performances of the season.
Yeah, I mean, hands down. Just and it kind of to couple it with that away win that we had. Now we have two big wins against in the Eastern, and we're moving up the table. But before we get into the standings on the table, I do want to say, if there's something in your closet that you might be getting rid of, spring cleaning, summer's here, everything like that, what you look even better in? That would be a t-shirt from our shop at shop.rblrsports.com. Of course, we ask you to like and subscribe to our podcast. Of course, we ask you to follow us on social media. But if you want to take that extra step, we have threads that celebrate and are inspired by all of the pro teams here, the Rays, the Rowdies, the Lightning, the Bucks, you name it. We've got a bunch of cool different styles that celebrate the lifestyle and the sports that you love. So if you use the promo code COYR, you're going to get 10% off anything you want, your entire order, 10% off by using the code COYR. There's a link right in the description. Click it, get yourself a cool t-shirt. And post a pic, man. If you get a t-shirt, post a pic. Show us what we got. We work really hard on these designs, and we'd love to see you walking down the street wearing them. So let's go. Brett, let's take a look at the standings, because the Rowdies, at the end of the game, we actually had moved up a lot. There was still a Louisville City match that they were losing at one point. We're all in the post-game presser watching FOTMob. We're like, Louisville's losing, then they're drawing. We're like, that's okay, that's cool. They end up pulling out the points. But Louisville's still on top, 36 points in the East. Memphis, 35 points. They take a big hit not picking up any points against the Rowdies, because now your Tampa Bay Rowdies, Mr. Rutherford, are in third place with 33 points, just over the Pittsburgh Riverhounds and Detroit City, who we are about to play in the next couple months. Both of the times we will play Detroit, so they're not going away anytime soon. Birmingham Legion follow them up with 26 points, and the Miami FC round out the playoffs with 24 points. Over in the West, just to kind of keep tabs on our foes across the way here, San Antonio leads the entire league with 40 points. Colorado Springs Switchbacks, which will be a team we play coming up here, are second with 36 points. San Diego Loyal, 34. El Paso with 30, and the rest goes on and on. So there's still a lot of big matches that are coming up in this rest of the year here for the Rowdies. But we took care of Pittsburgh, we kept them beneath us, and we've closed that gap to Memphis. Is there, Brett, any teams you're kind of seeing on an unexpected run, or is this just about as where you kind of had it pegged?
You kind of come to expect Louisville to be right up at the top.
Yeah.
it is a little, Charleston. You expect them to perform. Red Bulls 2, they're down. They're last in the conference right now.
Yeah,
They
well,
only have one win on the season. And I know they're a 2-team, but
it sucks to be a 2-team, man.
out of all the 2 teams, they are the most consistent, right? I think with some of the others, like some years, they just might not have enough players to loan back down from the MLS squad. But Red Bulls 2 have always been up there. They've been one of the best teams in USL. Ever since they've been in this league. So to see them down and last in the conference is shocking. I think I am most shocked by the Rowdies being in third. This is a team that lost their top goalkeeper, their top center back, their biggest goal scorer, Seber Gonzalez, has really been on the back burner all season. And I thought the championship window, while it wasn't completely shut for the Rowdies, it might have closed, or it might have started to close last year with that 3-1 loss against Orange County. So I wasn't sure. Maybe I was just trying to prepare myself, so I came into the season with low expectations. But that stretch of games where they started to fall down the table, I was thinking, yeah, this is kind of what I was expecting for this team. So to see them go on this run where they haven't lost a game since April 30th, and we're in July now. It's been awesome, and it's been really fun. They're tied for the conference lead in goals scored. They're not that far behind in goals allowed. So to see them in third, and it's still tight. You've got Pittsburgh, Detroit, even Birmingham hanging around. But I'm confident that they're going to host a playoff game, which I think is, for a team like the Rowdies, you can't always expect to finish first or second in the conference. But if you can host at least one playoff game, that should be the goal for this club.
Yeah, well, what? Speaking about this year, and kind of, I think you've answered. Did they kind of meet your expectations? I think it sounds to me like they've exceeded your expectations that they're so high in the table. But I would say, is there one or two things that have surprised you the most? Like, to me, it would be that they're keeping it so well together with all these injuries they're having. You brought up Castellanos was supposed to be like our kind of not quite a replacement, but we lost Lasso really close to the beginning of the season, and I think they were trying to patch it together. They get Castellanos. That seems like a pretty good stopgap. Bringing down a guy on loan from the MLS. So, what has surprised you the most, though?
I think seeing Fernandez and LaCava be the two biggest scoring contributors, and neither of which were, Fernandez, he had a good amount of goals and assists last season, but Gonzalez scored 22 goals and had 6 assists last year, and he's got like 1 goal this season. Steven Dos Santos, who was kind of brought in to be that goal scorer, he hasn't, and I know he's dealt with injuries through his entire time here. But to see two completely, Fernandez is not new. I think he's the longest tenured player on this team. But to see him really step up in goal scoring has been a lot of fun, and to see LaCava come in, I just think sometimes you see a veteran like Gonzalez and a lot of teams continue to get put on the team sheet because he's been there, he's done that, and whatever slump he's in, he'll break out of it. But to see him accept this new role as an off the bench forward, that doesn't always go down very well in locker rooms and on the field. But I think the credit goes to Neil for having each player on this team understand their role, understand when they're going to be needed. And there's going to be a time, injuries happen, and I'll knock on wood. You never know what's going to happen to a LaCava or a Greig or a Fernandez. There are going to be games and substantial games, maybe even postseason games, where you're going to need goals from Sebastian Gonzalez. And if Neil still has him bought in and training hard and trying to take advantage of the fewer opportunities that he's getting, he'll come through and he'll score those goals. He'll finally break that record that he's been sitting on since last postseason. So to see him kind of embrace that new role and new guys step up, that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, just to talk about the Seba situation there. Look, to be honest with you, we do ask pretty much every week, and look, we don't have an answer for this. I know we're asking. Neil continuously says, and rightfully so, that he goes with the best 11 from training and so forth. And I think even he's getting a little frustrated with us asking the question every week. We're like, well, but I hope that it's all okay. And Saba's, now I know every player wants to be on the pitch. He's a winner. He wants to be a contributor. And we'll never know the full story, I'm sure, but this is just my personal thought. But we went from having Saba starting to cold turkey him sitting on the bench with maybe no explanation other than results. I mean, obviously there was a lot of those up in the air, but we're left to read between the lines, and I really hope that everything's cool. I hope that like Saba's, just waiting for his next opportunity. But there was something I did want to bring up is we were up 2 goals against Memphis, and Memphis was down to 10 men, and there was still 30 minutes to play. And still, Sebastian Guinzotti didn't get. I mean, Saba wasn't brought on in the game at all. I mean, they brought in Lucky, they brought in Tejada, but it's unfortunately, like, to me, that kind of brings up some question starts forming about, like, if you're up 2 goals and your opponent's down to 10 men. I know it's 2 goals, but with 30 minutes to go, and you've been really, really dominating the other team. I mean, it's not like Saba needs more rest, or I mean, who knows? And again, I don't know don't know the full story. Neil keeps saying it's training. The best 11 gets on the pitch, but now we're getting to a point where we haven't seen Sebastian Guinzotti on some of the lineups, and we definitely haven't seen him in the games at a consistent rate. So.
Maybe something did happen behind the scenes, and I won't speculate.
No, I have no idea.
Happened.
No, yeah, I'm not saying anything like that happened. Yeah,
and again, I'd credit Neil for and Guinzotti too. If I don't know, maybe there was some sort of bust up in training. I don't know, but for keeping that in training, right, to not let that get out into the media, and we'd all love an answer, but it might not be in the best interest of the team to know what really happened. And so as a fan of the team, I'm whatever works, and I hope Guinzotti's happy, and I hope he gets that opportunity because I've watched him score a boatload of goals for this team, and I'd love to see him score a few more.
I mean, look, we're talking about this, but like, what is Neil going to say? Yeah, we changed up the format. They're scoring more goals, so we're sitting him on the bench. Like, he's never going to say that, even if it's
exactly
the results. That's the results that we've seen. But of course, there's so much more that shades all this in. So, I just want Saba to score 3 more goals and 10 more goals, and the Rowdies win every game 100-0. So that's all I want, man. But with that said, so Neil should get credit for changing his 11, changing his formation, and always be willing to do what's best against the opponent and for whatever the best fitness of the team is. But Neil takes his whistle and he hands it to you and he says, Brett, you get to pick the 11. What's your best 11 for this Rowdies team? Are they doing it right now, or would there be some changes that you would do?
I think I might have 1 or 2 changes. So let me go through that. I think Cochran in goal.
Okay.
Ryko is a fine backup. Neither of these guys are Evan Loro. I think it's unfortunate how his Rowdies career ended. But I think Cochran is the one I'd be more comfortable with in goal. I kind of want to go back to a back 3 if I were to. We're starting a game tomorrow. I think I'd go with Guillen and Scarlett, and I like Lawrence Wyke's ball playing abilities to play right there in the middle. And with who I put at wing back, I think that can kind of turn into a back 4 when we have possession, or depending on game state. I mean, Wyke can maybe push into the midfield a little bit. I like Dalgard at wing back and Connor Antley at wing back. Those guys are really kind of fill in those wings. They can get up and down the field. They can cross balls in. I already mentioned Ekra and Hilton.
Yep.
In the midfield, I guess that leaves me. So I've got Wyke. I've got a back 3. I've got 2 wing backs. And I've got 2 midfielders. So that I'm doing math in my head.
Here's the spiciness. Yeah. Who's up top?
How many players do I have left? I've just done a back 3. I've got I can put a front 3. Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with LaCava and Fernandez as dual tens. So not out wide per se. They can drift out wide. And I do think this is kind of what they're doing now. Dual tens playing right behind the striker, but can make runs forward, can drift out wide. And then I've got to go with Kyle Greig. So is that the same starting 11 that we went last weekend?
It is.
Okay.
Well, you changed up the formation a little bit. Yeah.
I love Steven Dos Santos, and when he was healthy last year, there's an argument that he was the best player on the pitch for the Rowdies. But what I've seen out of Greig this season, that level of versatility, that he's very comfortable on the ball. I go back to the first goal against Memphis. I really like what he can do playing in the middle, but he can also drop back. He can hold up play. He can find LaCava and Fernandez going on those runs. This is very similar to what in the Chelsea fan in me is going to come out here a little bit. Very similar to what Thomas Tuchel's done at Chelsea with like Kai Havertz, who's more of like an attacking midfielder, but he plays him as a striker and has players like Mason Mount and Christian Pulisic make those runs in on goal. Timo Werner when Timo Werner gets to play. So very fluid front three, but it's got to be LaCava and Fernandez are the first two names on my team sheet, along with Ekra and Hilton. But yeah, I would go back to the back three.
Yeah. I'm a fan. Neil's converted me. I would normally say back four, but I mean, just the versatility and that's the biggest unlockability is that at this level with USL Championship, you don't have a super duper deep roster. You don't have like an extra 11 dudes that you can rotate in, that are specifically play whatever position you need them to play. So having so many players that can play, you get guys like Antley that was brought in to be a person in the back, but his most natural position is probably midfielder. I mean, we're seeing it, but we can run a back four and just slap him in there. Okay, here you go. It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful.
I'm also kind of in the school of thought that like formations to an extent are kind of we're arguing like semantics, right?
I agree with you 100% on that.
If you've got Lawrence Wyke in the middle of a back three, but half the time he's going to be pushing up into midfield and with having Scarlett and Guillen drop back, is that a three in the back or is that a 4-3-3? I mean, it really is kind of arguing semantics. Players are not, like you said, stuck in one position. That's not.
It's not like there's a boundary that says, "Oh, this quadrant of the field you cannot escape."
Right. How different is a 4-2-3-1 from a 4-3-3? We can have players that play certain roles, and tactically they get tons of different instructions.
Right.
Especially from a coach like Neil. So, it's a 3 at the back, but maybe in possession it's a 4 at the back, and your wing backs can drop back a little bit. LaCava and Fernandez drift wide. But yeah, I really like the starting 11 from last week. Like I said, it was in my opinion, one of the, this and the Phoenix game, obviously the best performances of the season. Yeah. It was comprehensive. They played hard for 90 minutes. It could have been 4 or 5. Yep. But 2-0 it was more than comfortable enough. And I would roll out those same 11 guys just in slightly different formation.
Well, kind of going to a bigger picture question here, but I kind of wanted to ask you, as we're getting to know you here as our special guest, what's your favorite Rowdies moment of all time? You said you've been watching the since 2016, so a lot's happened in that time. A lot of big moments, the big run that we've been having, part of the Champa Bay. It has to include the back-to-back Eastern Conference champions here. So, favorite Rowdies moment of your time?
I'm gonna have to pick one that I was at Al Lang for at the game for because obviously the M. Casano goal last year was great, but I watched that from home. I made the trip down for the final. Wish I had been there for the semifinal. But I gotta go back to 2016, their last season in NASL. My first ever game. The Rowdies were playing Puerto Rico FC. And I knew the Rowdies existed. I've lived in Tampa my whole life. I was kind of just getting into like my soccer fandom. I was a Chelsea fan. I had been a Chelsea fan for a while. And I had heard the Rowdies had signed this former Chelsea player, Joe Cole, a guy that I used to watch in the World Cup and play for Chelsea, and I played with him on FIFA, all this stuff. And so I said, I can go watch this guy in St. Pete. I had like recently gotten my driver's license in my first car. So I'm thinking, let's go over, let's watch a soccer game. My girlfriend and I crossed the Skyway Bridge, and within the first 10 minutes of my first ever Rowdies game, there's Joe Cole scoring a bicycle kick goal. And I was sitting where the mob currently stands now, and those used to just be normal seats. Those were where my tickets were. And the stadium just erupted. It wasn't packed. It was the NASL days. It wasn't like they were pulling 6,000 plus like they can now on good days. And there might have only been 4,000 people there. But hearing the mob, it just, and hearing the supporters, and I was hooked instantly. And I've been a fan ever since. So that moment, I don't know if Joe Cole, I hate to admit, but if Joe Cole hadn't scored that goal and the Rowdies hadn't won decisively against Puerto Rico FC, I probably still would have went to a few more games, but I don't know if I'd be as big of a fan where, you and I can sit and have this conversation right now. I think that moment really hooked me. And I think that's, there are similar moments for a lot of Rowdies fans. I know two of my cousins went to their first game this weekend, and to see a goal in the third minute and to see the Rowdies cruise to a 2-0 win, a night like that with fireworks going off, it was 4th of July weekend. I hope that hooks them, and I hope they come back and go to more and more games. So I think there's a lot of other Rowdies fans that have similar moments that are close to their heart. It was an NASL game. It was a rainy night, but a Joe Cole bicycle kick, and I believe the score was 3-0. I'd have to go back and look. That's my favorite Rowdies moment of all time that I've been in person, that I've witnessed in person.
And I love that too. I think that you hit a really good vein there where you talked about, when people are going, and this is important for the marketing and the club and just the whole the culture, but when you get there, they play an entertaining game. They move the ball. They're trying to score. They're not trying to just turtle up and win 1-0. They in that defensive slugfest that I mentioned earlier, they're trying to put 5 on the board every game, every match, every minute, and I love that. But just you were talking about like the spectacle and that feeling of being at Al Lang Stadium. So what would you like how do you, when you're trying to get your friends or family or someone in there, like how do you tell someone who's never been to a Rowdies game like what that feels like to be in Al Lang?
If they're not a soccer fan, I say cheap tickets, 2 hours maximum, and cheap beer. Well, it's not cheap beer, but it's beer. You can drink beer. Last week. It was last week. Yeah, you got the $5 Bud Lights, but
yeah, man.
It's not like, and I'm a huge race fan. I do a podcast. You don't have to block off your whole night to go to a baseball game where it could go 4 hours. It's 2 hours. There's great food and bar scenes right there in downtown. You can make a whole day out of it. You can go to the Dali Museum. If there's a show at the Mahaffey, it really is a community event. So I always say that. But for soccer fans that maybe are only watch the European game or only watch MLS, I say again, the cheaper tickets. It's and I've met so many people that I can now call, my friends, best friends, at Rowdies games and being in the mob and tailgating. It is a community atmosphere, having, like personal relationships with the players, like getting to talk to them after games and, stuff that you don't get even. And I've always said, like, during the MLS to St. Pete push, I think I was on board with it. I loved the stadium renovations. I thought Bill Edwards had it going in the right direction. But now seeing how MLS expansion has played out, I'm happy that the Rowdies stayed in USL. I'm glad that we didn't go to MLS and that we're not Tampa Bay FC now or whatever basic marketing team name they assigned to us. Because you're seeing that happen to a lot of clubs, a lot of supporters groups. I look at what they're charging for season tickets with Charlotte FC, and I just think that's not the team that's not a type of team that I would want to support, paying $400+ for season tickets. And again, I'm just really comfortable with where the Rowdies are. It's a club that's entrenched in its community. And that's something I hope we can continue to say for many years. So, yeah, I just think the atmosphere, the people, and I love watching the Rowdies win, but that's not really why I go. When I'm going to games, I go to see my friends, to hang out, to have a drink. And there's a saying that all soccer is a great day out ruined by 90 minutes, right? 90 minutes of play. So, unfortunately, the Rowdies win a lot at home. But if they didn't, I'd still go, because that's not really the core reason why I keep coming back.
Yeah, I think community is a big catch-all term, but it really does fit in for what I've seen from being embedded with this team for a couple years now. With us starting RBLR, and one of the first things is I was like, I personally don't know a lot about soccer and soccer culture and everything like that, but we brought on, amazing people who have taught me, and just being around the team and being around Al Lang and being, hanging out with the mob and so many people that I personally talk to, on a day-to-day basis now, that it really does feel like the supporters groups are a community, the whole team, so that when people come from the outside and it's their first match, there's already this lived-in feel to the stadium, and there's always someone that's waiting and willing to put their hand around you and say, we could teach you the songs, we can teach you the chants, listen to the drum, but above all, let's just have fun, and let's just whether it's a win or a loss, the wins are better, but no matter what, it's a good time. And you brought up the MLS thing, and so I think that's a good point, is that if at first glance it seems like a no-brainer, of course we want to be in MLS, but a lot of things would be different, and I would hope that we would build a good community, we would build a good fan base, we would do all those things, but it wouldn't be the same. And I think there would be some changes that would have had to happen, and through the sale of the team and post Bill Edwards, they've done a lot of things to increase the capacity of the stadium, increase the game day experience. It would be even more of an overdrive if they were in MLS. But this also gives me a good opportunity to ask you specifically, because you follow the Rays so closely, and of course you've been following the stadium saga and everything. But with the uncertainty of the stadium location, and if it's in Tampa, there's uncertainty what they would do with the Al Lang site and all this stuff. And I know none of us have the answer, but what would be your personal best outcome after all of this unfolds?
Personally, it would be the Rowdies stay at Al Lang forever and ever, and the Rays get their own stadium on either side of the bay. And I know I might ruffle some feathers, say, "Oh, the Rays need to be in Tampa," but that might not be the most likely outcome with the amount of money that Tampa or Hillsborough County can bring to the table. Obviously the lease runs out in 4 years, so the clock is very much ticking. And I understand that if a new stadium is built, whether it be on the Pinellas side or the Hillsborough side, one of the bargaining chips is going to be that the Rowdies can come along. I think it would be it would be heartbreaking to see them leave Al Lang. It might be even more so to say that the Rays are staying in Pinellas County. Why can't the Rowdies stay at their home in Pinellas County? But like you said, that Al Lang land is incredibly valuable. Right there on the waterfront. It's great. It goes right along Central Ave. And so I think if the Rays get their new stadium on the Hillsborough side, I've always kind of thought the big picture ploy for Stu or for the Rays ownership in purchasing the Rowdies was to, I won't say just use them, because they've invested a lot into the club and they've turned it into an incredibly successful club. But I mean, I think you'd be a little naive to think that buying the Rowdies also wasn't a stadium ploy, and to show to Hillsborough County, hey, we won't just have 81 baseball games a year. We're also going to bring 17 or so soccer games, and potentially, I know the Rays even bounced around the idea of going for MLS expansion again. That's going to be enticing. It adds just a little bit to a stadium deal to bring a second team. for Rowdies fans, I think, and for all second division or lower division soccer fans, what we hope for is just existence. We've seen so many other clubs that have just had to fold, historic clubs.
Yeah.
And I think as Rowdies fans, we have to remind ourselves that we are not eternally safe from that. Each new season we cannot take for granted. There are so many other clubs that have kind of gone to the wayside. You look at what happened to the Cosmos and the Strikers, and I know they were kind of stuck to a sinking ship that was NASL, and the Rowdies are in the same media market as USL headquarters. I think we'll be fine, but who knows? Who knows in the world of lower division U.S. soccer. So if they get the new stadium in Tampa and the Rowdies have to move over there, and even if we have to play in a converted baseball stadium, the likes of which we make fun of for teams like Memphis, you know what? It's better than not existing anymore. And so I'd love for the Rowdies to stay at Al Lang, but that's kind of the fickle beast that we're dealing with when it comes to lower division soccer fandom, and whatever keeps them existing, I'll take.
Yeah, I hope that it's just that we all love Al Lang so much, and it's like it's our little cut of the world, and it's so different and unique and special. And I hope that it doesn't just get homogenized into some new shared stadium experience. And the worst part is I feel like, and we could do our whole. I won't go too deep because we could do a whole show just on this. And in the off season, I definitely would love to have you back on to kind of we can go through all this. It'd be great. But unfortunately, I hope that what they're saying when they include the Rowdies in a lot of these talks and plans isn't just lip service, like, oh, hey, by the way, also we have this Rowdies thing over here. But it kind of feels like in reality that's what it's going to end up being, that like the Rowdies will not be taken into consideration with whatever the Rays eventually decide to do. Maybe it's like, and also, like we could work this for the Rays or the Rowdies this way or that way. And I hope that the fan base and the people can make their voices be heard to say that, like, hey, we aren't just, the other people in this organization. We are the community. We are this very important and integral part of St. Pete, if that stays there. Or if you're going to move to Tampa, you're going to have to get us on board as a fan base to jump across the bridge and come see you. Otherwise, you have to start from square one wherever you're at. So, again, we can get into all that. But we do have one game that I think you and I will just preview quickly here, and then we will get out of here, man. This has been a wonderful conversation, though. We are unfortunately playing a team that we didn't have the most fun playing against last time, and that is Hartford Athletic. And I know we're an audio podcast. I'm doing athletic in quotation marks because the last time we played was a 1-1 draw at Al Lang. Hartford scored early, and they basically ate the ball until LaCava equalized at the 39th minute. They subbed in 3 guys at halftime and decided to take naps on the field, including the goalkeeper. Look, I don't want to, poke people if they're really injured, but there were so many cramps. Just, oh my God, so many cramps that night, and people doubling over and then, toughing it out. But it was just a lot of gamesmanship here. But did you happen to go to that game at Al Lang?
I wasn't there, but I do remember watching it, and I think that's how the game works, and it's up to the official really to enforce that and complain about the official and his performance that night. But if the best way to fix that is to score first yourself. It is. Don't let them get that 1-0 lead at Al Lang within the first 10 minutes, and now you're going to be you're going to be at their place. We're a good enough team to not have to make those sorts of excuses. And they were able to get a point out of it. But if you don't score first, that's going to come back to bite you. It's not like you've got the rest of the 90 minutes to catch up, and they were able to get the goal back. But they're going to play like that. And to be fair to them, they're not scraping the bottom of the barrel here. They're in 10th. They're a team that's going to compete for a spot in the playoffs. And fair play to them. I know they're in pretty good form right now. They've won 2 of their last 4 games. They got 7 points out of their last 4 games. They've done well at home. Their last loss was Louisville City 2-0 at home, but Louisville City's the best team in the Eastern Conference, maybe the best team in all of USL. It's going to be another tough matchup. And I know the Rowdies are in great form right now, but you just hope that they take that mentality, the way they were able to beat Pittsburgh and to beat Memphis, two very good teams, and that they continue that mentality into what I think is going to be a tough road game.
Yeah, and we were talking about formations. These guys play basically in a 4-5-1, and I expect them to do the same thing. They're at home, so maybe they're going to open it up a little bit more for scoring, but I think they even know that they're going to be outmatched at a lot of positions. I expect them to jam up, turtle, whatever you want to call it, and attack on the counter. And to be fair, like the Hartford game was definitely one of those games that we wish we got 3 points out of, because it was one of those games they owned the possession, they fired a bunch of shots, it just kind of crosses to nowhere. And it was during that stretch that we were complaining a lot about this team concedes the first 17 minutes. It's like, hold on to the edge of your seat, because a lot's going to happen in that 17 minutes that might dictate the complete outcome of this game. And unfortunately, we were on the losing end of, or the at least conceding goals in those first 17 minutes. Sometimes we were able to equalize, and sometimes we weren't. But it's just with Hartford, they just don't. I mean, they have a negative goal differential. It's a -6 goal differential this far, and they don't really score a lot. I mean, even in these games that we're looking, it was a 1-1 draw last night with Detroit City. They did beat Colorado Springs, but Colorado was on the road. But they beat them 2-0. But then again, some of the Western Conference teams really don't play a lot of defense. They did lose again. You said to Louisville, and I think that against Memphis 901, who we just obliterated, they drew them. 1-1 was the final of that. So you're not talking about a dynamic scoring offense. I mean, their leading scorer is Joel Johnson with 4 goals. He's a midfielder. The other midfielder is right behind him with 2 goals, and both of those goals have been in the last 2 games. He did score last night. Andre Lewis is who I'm talking about. Scored against Detroit City and scored in the Colorado Springs game. But he's really the guy that I would say is their like hottest player right now. Andre Lewis has been playing really, really well in the midfield. He's on a tear right now, but against Louisville, a really, really good team and someone closer to our caliber, he struggled mightily. It's a big drop-off with what Louisville was able to do in that midfield versus him, versus Colorado or even Detroit City. And, you know, they beat Atlanta 4 games ago, but it's 2-team. Like all the 2 teams are bad in this division. But the question I wanted to bring up here is, with all that said, how do the Rowdies win this match? What do you see working in our favor to win this match?
I think you're going with, the last time these 2 teams played, it was very early in the season. You had Gonzatti start, you had Dos Santos start. So we talked about that new fluid attacking front. And the key to winning this game, very much like it would have been in the first time they played, is scoring first. And if the Rowdies can do that, I don't think Hartford has the firepower to get back into it. And so I'm gonna predict a 1-0 Rowdies win. I think they score in the first half, and they're not gonna sit back. They're not gonna just try to hold on to all 3 points away at Hartford. But it wouldn't shock me to see them play a little more reserved, because they know if Hartford gets that goal back and makes it 1-1, you could see a very similar situation as we saw play out in the second half back in March. So I'm going to go a 1-0 Rowdies win, and I'll pick a goal scorer too. I'll throw a goal scorer out there.
Okay.
I think Kyle Gregg's going to get the goal. I think he deserved a goal early on last weekend, and I'd love to see him. It might just be a tap in, and it might be either LaCava or Fernandez doing the heavy lifting. And so will Kyle Greig. He'll take it too. So I'll go a 1-0 Rowdies win in Connecticut with Greig scoring the winner.
I love it, man. We said it before, the formula's working, so don't break what ain't broken. Don't fix what ain't broken. I think that putting 4 in the back, I think they're going to stick with it, and I think that even with the center back moving up in the offense, it should be enough to close the door. Memphis is a way more dynamic attack, and we stifled them. So if these guys get off the plane ready to play, they have the talent. As much as Hartford can do all the gamesmanship they want to try to maybe pull out a draw here, I think even if they focus on Leo and LaCava, Dalgard and Greig, just like you had just said, I think they're waiting to convert, and they'll get their chances. I think the Rowdies are going to win the possession battle like they did previously. And unfortunately, in this Rowdies configuration, if you give us enough chances, they're going to bury one. So my prediction is a 2-1 win for the green and gold. I absolutely, as much as I think the smarter play is a 1-1 draw, I think it's a 2-1 win. We do concede on the road, but I think that if we put 2 in the net and they get a garbage time something goal in the second half, it'll be just fine. So that's kind of how I see that going. But Brett, oh my God, dude, amazing conversation. I want to thank you for joining us here. We'll give you the last word here, but I wanted to also thank every one of you that's listening. You've made it this far. You are the real MVPs. Give us one little thing. If you've listened, if this is your first time hearing us, hit the little like button or the subscribe button or the follow button, wherever you're listening to this on any major platform. Do that for us, and you will get all of the content from all of the amazing shows that the guys here at RBLR put on. So whether you like the Bucks, the Rays, the Rowdies, the Lightning, everything, even the Bandits in the USFL, we had a show talking about them. So all you got to do is hit that little like button or that follow button or that subscribe button. But Brett, how does someone follow you on all of your social media?
I am at BG Rutherford 99 on Instagram, Twitter. I don't really post much on Instagram, but Twitter is where you can find me.
Cool.
Talking about Rays, talking about the Rowdies, and a bunch of other things. Junior college athletics, Chelsea. It's a grab bag. Feel free to check out my Twitter, and you catch my work on draysbay.com. We'll have links to all the podcasts there.
Yep.
I know that we've had RBLR's Ben Whitelaw on Raise Your Voice. I've been on, like you said, the Rays podcast. I think we're even planning another Rays Jeopardy coming up here in the near future.
Ooh, you're letting it out of the bag. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Definitely.
Am I breaking
No,
news
you're good.
here?
You have all the right to do that as the champion.
Well, as the champion. Yeah, exactly. That was a lot of fun last time, so I'm hoping to retain that championship. I think over the All-Star break is when Ben was saying we're going to get that going. So yeah, this is a ton of fun. Like I said, I only agreed to do it without Carlos. But no, I hope the next time I'm on, I do. I can talk to Carlos a little bit. It's been a while. Thank you for having me on.
No, it's all good, guys. Again, thank you all for listening to this. Let's go, guys. Let's get the full 3 points on the road, and I will leave you with what we always end the pod on, and that is a big old come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.